Hello and good evening. There are two prophecies that are yet to come true, political prophecies that I've made before on this platform. They are yet to come true. The first is the shutting down of the internet on the day of the elections or shortly before the elections, which are coming on August 12. The second political prophecy is the deployment of soldiers on the streets of Lusaka. Those are the two political prophecies I've made, and they are going to come true. And in fact, the second of those prophecies, the deployment of soldiers on the streets of Lusaka, is just about to come true anytime soon. Why do I say so? About 2 hours ago, and this is why I'm coming late on this platform on this election update. I'm coming late because I've just confirmed the Zambian people's worst fears, the deployment of soldiers during the election of August 12. About 2 hours ago, Peter Sinkamba, for those of you who don't know who Peter Sinkamba is the leader of the Marijuana Party, or the so-called Green Party. This is the party that believes that marijuana should become free for all to consume, that it should be legalized, and that youths and everybody who feels like they can partake in smoking marijuana all they want, they can enjoy themselves. In short, Peter Sinkamba advocates for the dowsing and the smoking and the destabilization of Zambian society because he wants marijuana smoking to become rampant and allowed. That's Peter Sinkamba for you. Now, Peter Sinkamba, about 2 hours ago, has posted on his Facebook page. If you want, you can go and check. Thank you very much, Eric Kakoma, for following. If you want, you can go on Peter Sinkamba's page and check 2 hours ago. Peter Sinkamba says he has appealed actually to President Lungu to deploy the Red Berets. That's the title of his posting. He is appealing to President Lungu to deploy the Red Berets. Who are the Red Berets? We're talking about the commandos, Zambia's elite forces. They are based in Ndola, Mushili. I'm talking about 1st Commando Unit. He wants President Lungu to deploy the 1st Commando Unit on the streets of Lusaka. Now, this should not surprise you, because I've told you before that in these elections, the military is going to be deployed by President Lungu in order to intimidate the population, in order to scare the opposition, the UPND. Why? Because there is something that they are planning in these elections, whereby they do not want people to react accordingly if the elections are tampered with in one way or the other. That's the reason. So the plan to deploy soldiers, or in this case, commandos from Mushili in Ndola, 1st Commando Unit, the plan has been there. But the PF needs a reason to deploy those soldiers on the streets. And I can tell you that I did not think that this call, I knew the call for deployment of soldiers on the streets was not going to come from PF. That's the way politics works. That's the way propaganda works. If you are pushing a propaganda agenda, don't say it yourself to say, I'm going to deploy soldiers. No, that's not how propaganda works. Find somebody, a neutral, preferably a neutral party or an aligned party that is not directly connected to you. Find an individual or an institution that can call for what you want, so that you can only come in and say, oh, ABCD called for the deployment of soldiers because of the lack of safety in Lusaka. So I'm calling for the deployment of soldiers. Peter Sinkamba, leader of the Marijuana Party, is simply a sounding board. He's simply a sounding board of the PF. I thought that the call for soldiers to be deployed in Lusaka would come from individuals like, who's this guy? What's his name again? This one who's supporting Bill 10. Ntewewe. I thought such a call would come from Ntewewe, because of late Ntewewe has been the PF's major sounding board. Anytime you hear Ntewewe say something, just know it's coming from the minds of the PF. When Ntewewe talked about Bill 10 being passed, when he pushed for Bill 10, when Ntewewe pushed for Bill 10, it was the mind of the PF pushing him to push Bill 10. When Ntewewe says that He doesn't want that ECZ should limit the number of international observers who are coming to observe the election because of COVID. Rest assured, it's coming from the mind of the PF. When Ntewewe says there should be an inquiry into the privatization of Zambian state-owned assets, of course, which is targeted at HH. When Ntewewe says that, just know it is coming from the minds of PF. You get the idea. The PF have got specific sounding boards, people or institutions that they use to test out what people feel or how people react to their decisions. In this case, I'm talking about the deployment of soldiers in the coming election. Rest assured, it is going to happen. And I've told you before, do not be intimidated, do not be scared when you see soldiers being deployed on the streets of Lusaka, because these are the last kicks of a dying horse. So like I was saying, I did not think the idea or the mooting of this idea to deploy soldiers was going to come from Peter Sinkamba, leader of the Marijuana Party, or the Green Party if you so wish. I did not think it was going to come from him. I thought the call for soldiers to be deployed was going to come from either Ntewewe or Chilifya Tayari. But of course, Chilifya Tayari has fallen out of favor with the PF of late, so he's no longer being used as a sounding board. So their major go-to person is now Sinkamba. Why? Because Sinkamba is strategically positioned also as a fellow presidential candidate. He's participating in these elections as a president. I don't even know the followers that he has. If there are chamber smokers there who belong to the Green Party, I don't know how many they are. I don't know. So, Peter Sinkamba has now initiated the call for President Lungu to deploy soldiers on the streets of Lusaka. And mark my words, soldiers on the streets of Lusaka, not the entire Zambia, Lusaka. I'll tell you why Lusaka is being targeted. But first, I want to establish that Peter Sinkamba is not only a surrogate. You know, there's this thing in politics which we call a surrogate political parties. A surrogate political party is a chola boy of the main ruling party. Ain. Chola boy, Baba PF, Emma surrogate political parties. Those are political parties which do not even have an independent thought or idea or agenda. Their agenda is to endorse the ruling party. Anytime you hear about opposition, but actually endorse the ruling party, aboniba surrogate. And Peter Sinkamba is a good example of a surrogate political party, one-man political party, Nashala Neka political party, Eba Peter Sinkamba. So but Peter Sinkamba now has been used as a sounding board by the PF to tell President Lungu to deploy soldiers on the streets. Why? Because according to the story of Sinkamba, story lipa Facebook page yawo, go to Peter Sinkamba on this Facebook page. Story lipa Facebook page yaba Sinkamba, iletiro kwa but Sinkamba, I don't know if it is today or yesterday, bali pita Lusaka mu streets ya Lusaka, yelo baisa mwana makada zabengi. A violent mob of cadres carrying pangas, catapults, and all sorts of weapons, offensive weapons. So Sinkamba baledi la kuliba President Lungu ati no, ama cadres aba, they are going to cause mayhem or distraction during the elections of August 12, and therefore is calling on President Lungu as the commander-in-chief to deploy the soldiers. Somebody with no following in his party. Where he saw these cadres, we don't know. And he didn't identify these cadres. Are they PF? Are they UPND? But I can assure you, these are not UPND cadres. Where can UPND cadres even be allowed 1 minute in the streets of Lusaka to just patrol or put posters? They will be ambushed, not by the police. They will be ambushed first by PF cadres before the police comes in. So it's not UPND cadres. So if it's not UPN cadres, then it's PF cadres. And why were these PF cadres not dressed in PF regalia? I'll tell you the reason. Because the impression is being created. These are propagandists who are moving these things. The impression is being created by the PF government that there is a mob of unidentified cadres who are posing a security risk to the people of Lusaka in the compounds. And that's what Peter Sinkamba was saying. Say no, it's being said that this mob of cadres or this violent mob of people are posing security threats in the compound, and it has become a daily occurrence. Therefore, I'm calling on President Lungu to deploy the army. That is not Peter Sinkamba speaking. That is the mind of the PF. They are looking for an excuse to deploy the soldiers so that they can intimidate you, they can intimidate me, and they can intimidate everybody who's opposed to the PF. That is what the agenda is. Remember, I've talked about two things. Surrogate parties, small parties that are used by the PF to sound an agenda so that you and me can hear it first from the small party, then tikabwere tikaimverere kuikulu kuli ba PF manje. Because the PF cannot just deploy the army without a justification. They are looking for a justification. And Peter Sinkamba now is giving them a justification, saying they are unruly and violent mobs of cadres with pangas and all kinds of weapons who are roaming the streets of Lusaka and the compounds, and they are threatening the peace of this country. Therefore, Commander-in-Chief, can you deploy the army? Mind you, President Lungu himself did say during the so-called Defense Forces Day that if the police is not going to do their job in policing the situation around Lusaka, he was going to use his powers as commander-in-chief to intervene. He said that himself. So he dropped a hint and an idea to all of us that he is going to deploy the army if the police fail. What is Sinkamba saying today? Leader of the Marijuana Party. He is now appealing to the president to say, no, actually, Mr. President, what you said is happening because the police are failing to police the situation of cadres in Lusaka. I told you I was going to focus on Lusaka. I was going to talk about why Lusaka. Why Lusaka? This is the capital city. This is where State House is. This is where all the institutions of government are. This is the nerve. This is the political nerve center of Zambia. If there is any place that you have to protect or any place that you want to rig elections, it has to be the capital city. That's why even coups don't take place in provincial capitals. No. They take place in the capital city where the seat of government is. So the first place to have soldiers deployed in Zambia before the elections, mark my words, is going to be Lusaka. Not because there's anything special about Lusaka, but because they know in Lusaka, this is where the highest registered number of voters is. This is where the seat of government is. This is where the majority of violence takes place. Because this is where UPND is based and this is where it is the strongest. Of course, you can say it's UPND is also strong in Kitwe, but this is where UPND is based. This is where we have our cadres as well. So this is where also the PF have the mass or the majority of their cadres. And from time to time, PF always finds a way of provoking UPND and provoking UPND cadres to react. So they will say, because the situation is tense in Lusaka. So in Lusaka, that's where we're going to deploy soldiers. That is what I have for you today, the deployment of soldiers. So the sounding board is now Peter Sinkamba. I urge you again, I'm not talking from without. I've come to you at this late hour to update you. Hakuna kulala bane, takuli kulala. Things can happen at 01. Keep your phones on, keep your data on. Things can happen at 01 or 02. We have to update you. If we wait until tomorrow morning to update you on such issues, tomorrow morning, there will be another issue. You find that the internet has been shut down. And mark my words. Thank you very much, Gertrude from Kawata. Thank you very much, Frederick, Kavungo, Dutch Caps. We are together. Mark my words. The internet will also be shut. This is one of the measures that the PF is going to put in place in order to try and rig elections. They are going to try and rig the elections. You know it, I know it, and we all know it. But today I'm not talking about the shutting down of the internet. I'll talk about the shutting down of the internet about, I think, 5 days before the election. Because they can't shut it down now. They need it. After all, you have seen they are also conducting what they are calling their virtual rallies. Rallies which are called just to talk about one man. Just to talk about HH. They are having virtual rallies just to talk about HH. So they still need the internet. They are not going to shut it down now, because they have got the so-called virtual rallies. But when it comes to nearer to the elections, because they know that this is going to be the transmission mode by which you and me are going to share the results or what is happening around the country in various polling stations, that will be an eye that can expose rigging as regards which will be caused by the PF. So they are going to shut it down so that you and me cannot communicate. That will happen maybe a day before the elections or on the day of the elections. But definitely on the day of the elections, you and me are not going to have this internet. So my friend, my brother, my sister, we better find better ways of communicating. For now, Expect the deployment of soldiers anytime soon. We are only about 23 days to the election. So the deployment of soldiers is going to happen maybe a week before, maybe to tomorrow, but expect it. Expect it. Share this video. Share this video with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, with your community. Share it. Because when soldiers are deployed, don't go into shock and hide in your houses. Say, hey, kulima soldier manje ukachoka baza kushuta. Don't. Your friends in South Africa, your friends in Swaziland, your friends in Congo have been facing the same thing. Your friends in Uganda have been facing the same thing. Regimes which want to intimidate people by deploying the army. In Uganda, they went out in numbers to vote despite the soldiers being deployed. Nobody is going to shoot you. Nobody is going to harass you. So even when the tanks come out, when those missile launchers come out, when those amphibious vehicles come out, when those so-called red berets, Nabafuarana Masenkebere carrying AK-47s with spare magazines on their chests, don't be intimidated. Carry your voter's card. Carry your NRC. Go out to vote. The army is not there to make war against the people. No. The army is there to protect you against foreign forces. We don't have any foreign forces that are causing mayhem in Zambia, causing disturbance. No. We only have the PF itself, which is trying to cause disturbance. So the soldiers are on your side. Don't be intimidated when the soldiers come out. So this broadcast is to let you know that Peter Sinkamba, leader of the National Neka Party, the Marijuana Party, has been used by the PF as a sounding board to initiate the agenda of the deployment of soldiers. You might even see commandos. Kaidi Sinkamba balefu red berets. Efu barandile pa page yabo. President Lungu, please deploy red berets on the streets of Lusaka. Mule shupa commandos all the way from Mundola. Mubenshe all the way from Mundola to come to Lusaka. Red berets. Why do you want those people to burn fuel and energy? You want the first commando unit, the elite forces. Those people are skilled for things that are higher or more serious than elections. Special forces are not for guarding peace in elections. Come on. Even for the army, it's beneath them. Those people are meant for serious things like war. Serious war. If it is the special forces like the first commando unit, you don't even use them in like normal war. No. You use them for special missions. Special missions. Which mission can you bring out the first commando unit for elections? Which the police can handle? I have to be serious. But anyway, like I've said, they are going to deploy. The PF is going to deploy the army. Don't be afraid. Be ready for that. They are not going to harass you. Nobody's going to shoot you. Nobody's going to kill you. The whole agenda is to intimidate the UPND and its cadres. Aye. If we fire, which they intimidate by UPND because they believe to say no by UPND bakapange fiongo muma elections in Gabalusa. We are not losing the elections. It's you, the PF, who have already lost the elections. Polling data, or polls have already shown to say that you lost this election last year. That's when you lost this election. In Lusaka, you're not getting more than 10% of the votes. In Copper Belt, you are not even getting 10% of the votes. Even in your bedrooms, the places you considered to be your bedrooms in Luapula and Northern and Muchinga, you have seen what is happening in Mpulungu and in Porokoso. Your people you considered to be in your pocket, they have risen against you. Even there, we are going to wire you. We are going to get at least not less than 50% of the vote in your bedrooms by PF. Your people you considered to be your people have rebelled against you because of your poor leadership, your corruption, your violence, your lies, your intimidation. So the end has come for you. So don't say, no, we are deploying soldiers because no. Tell us something else. UPND is a very peaceful party. We have no interest in any violence. The only interest that we have is in protecting our vote. That is all. We won't let you steal our vote. We will protect our vote. That is all. So, fellow citizens, that's all I had for you today. The election update regards the issue of deployment of soldiers. The PF has been itching to deploy soldiers because they want to intimidate us on the election day. So the soldiers are going to come out. I've told you. You cut my finger. If the PF will not deploy soldiers in Lusaka and even Koba Belt, but primarily Lusaka, cut my finger. Cut my finger if they are not going to deploy the soldiers. Mukaba mwana bashirika on the streets. Cut my finger, but don't be intimidated. You're going to see that. So this is just to tell you what is going to happen. Thank you very much. My time is up. I've come pretty much late, but like I told you, I came late because Peter Sinkamba dropped the bomb very late. So I had to react to it immediately. He dropped that bomb about 2 hours ago on his page. Go to his page, Peter Sinkamba. Type Peter Sinkamba. I don't even know how Peter Sinkamba managed to have 10,000 people to endorse him to stand as president. I don't know. Nashala Neka Party, this person who doesn't even have a secretary general or even a coffee maker, not even an officer that in his party. Nina Nashala Neka Party, he's telling President Lungu to say he should deploy soldiers. What is he afraid for? He has nothing to lose in this party, Peter Sinkamba. He is nothing in the politics of Zambia. He's a non-entity. He will never amount to anything. And this, but Peter Sinkamba, if you're listening, this election is where you are going to be politically buried. You are going to be consigned to the dustbin of history. Your name will never be heard in Zambian politics again because you've chosen to side with the people who are evil, the people who are making Zambians suffer. That is all I had to say. This video is going to be uploaded as well on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, go to Mainda Simataa. You're going to find this video and many other updates which I've done. So you're just going to find a list of them. Go through them and you find an update on many issues. Probably maybe a day or two, maybe a week or so before the elections, I'm going to talk about the shutting down of internet. And I hope the broadcast is going to happen. But I've told you, next is internet shutdown. For now, expect the deployment of soldiers, especially in Lusaka. Here in Lusaka, you are going to see them. Maybe you won't see them in Koba Belt, but primarily in Lusaka, but don't be intimidated. They are there to protect you. Soldiers don't fight against the people. They fight against outside enemies. So thank you very much. Good night and God bless.